please explain why can't we chant Om Namah Shivaya?
It is believed that the Omkar has the energy of that full Brahman which can take you into a state of sannyasa.
For a person who's starting sadhana tomorrow, one advice.
The deities are there to transform you. You start the sadhana, stick to it.
Dada, something very simple for Hanuman.
Hanuman Chalisa.
Except Hanuman Chalisa. What is the prime difference between Bhairav Baba and Batuk?
Vatuka Bhairava is Shiva himself. Literally, he is Shiva who has taken the form of a small child and come down because...
So Dada, even when we are chanting Namah Shivaya, and there's a lot of fear in people that we get, oh, I don't have a guru, if I chant, Shiva is going to punish me.
Lord Shiva or a Rishi, even if he punishes you, that's a blessing.
I have to give no introduction because when I say Dada and when we say Bhairav, the first thing that comes is Dada. From Varanasi till here, he has blessed us, he has guided us, and today here we are with Dada. Thank you, Dada, for joining us.
Namaste, Jai Bhairav Baba,
Jai Bhairav Baba.
Kamakhya, Jai Matara.
Jai Mata. It has been a blessing and it is beautiful because his presence and his knowledge is always uplifting us. Dada, please, what is the message for Mahashivratri and what blessings you want to give us?
First of all, it is Shiva who gives the blessings. We are just ordinary human beings. We are upasakas. We are trying our best to connect to him. Mahashivratri is one of the 4 most important spiritual nights for us. And any Sanatani, anybody who has some spiritual consciousness in there, who is not an atheist, who is not inside his, wants to self-develop, that is the night to meditate on Shiva, to worship Shiva. Anything that you receive as a blessing on that night is the time when you can kind of, it's like a rebirth of a spiritual consciousness in every individual. That is what can happen on the night of Shivratri for anybody who wants to connect.
Dada, coming out of understanding, why rituals are so important?
No, rituals, I have mentioned this before also, rituals are like a language. It's like when 2 people speak, you need to speak through a language. That is why the ritual comes in. So ritual is a way of communication, an agreed method of communication. In this case, you are communicating with a power that is much greater and larger, far more eternal and infinite from our limited perspective. So ritual is a way in which you are speaking to the deity, and the deity understands that method of safe communication. Let's put it this way. Safe because remember that the deity's power and your power are vastly different. We are like this small. I mean, their time scale is only different. Okay. So in order to approach something so fantastic, so terrific, there are the rishis in their kindness have developed some methods. What is a safe way to approach without, so that you can take some positive benefit out of it. So that is where the ritual comes in.
And Dada, how to worship a Shivling for a simple sadhak who's completely new?
So, I feel that Shivaling Upasana is one of the best sadhanas that anybody can do if you have a Shivalinga. And the simplest way is to do Shiva is Abhishekam Priya. All deities like Abhishekam, but for Shiva it is even more wonderful thing. So if you have a Shivalinga, then you can do Abhishekam of the Linga with water, with milk, with curd, with honey, with Panchamrita, with ghee. Along with that, you can add fruit juices, sugarcane, then water which has been made specially auspicious with adding different fragrances, rose water. You can add some kind of essential oils, athars and things like that, etc. Basically, these things as you pour on the Shivalinga, and if you're trained in the chanting of the Vedic Rudram, either that or the Shiva Sahasranama or any stuti of Shiva or just Namah Shivaya, as you keep doing it, as these things flow through the Shivalinga, it becomes like an inner meditation for the Upasaka. So eventually you will realize that just like the Shivalinga, it's a reflection of that state in this world that everything is changing, everything is non-constant, everything is filled with ignorance. Shivalinga is that one entity, that one self that is beyond time. Same reflection is there deep inside the human heart. There is a point which is beyond time, which is steady, which was never born, never dies, as the Gita says. And as these things pass through, it is like the various currents of karma that pass through that Shivalinga inside. Good and bad, sab kuch, everything is flowing down, etc. It becomes like a meditation. So Abhishekam of Shiva is not a ritual. If you ask me, I call it a meditation. You go on doing it. You go on doing it. It doesn't stop at these things. You again pour water. Again you pour ghee. Again you pour milk. Again you keep doing the mantras. Eventually it becomes like a bhava. It becomes like an avesham. Through resonance, it becomes into a meditative state. And you will feel ki bas, or I don't need anything else in the world.
How beautiful. The external goes within the
Internal. It's always the external and the internal are linked. Yatha brahmande tatha pinde. That is the peak of sadhana. Initially, the sadhak cannot go deep inside. If you do not connect it to the rituals outside, it is likely that you will misstep. If you internally, many things are there. Some are divine. A human being is both an asuric being, potentially, a human in the evolutionary state, and also potential deity. All these forces are inside. So you can, by mistake, follow the wrong impulses inside and fall yourself, make yourself fall down. Whereas the whole point, that is why we need the parameter and the crux or the crutch of the external ritual, so that you follow the correct impulses inside, which take you towards the divinity, take you towards the potential God, the Godhead that is inside. And to awaken that is the whole point of the human birth. That is the whole point of the sadhana, the ritual that we are doing. So that is why when we are doing Shiva Upasana, when we are pouring and chanting these mantras of Shiva, it helps us to connect to that vast, infinite. Because Shiva is both Sakar and Nidakar and everything. There is no limit to where he starts and where he ends. He's beyond the beyond. Let's put it that way. Where the rational mind ends, beyond that is the intuitive minds. Even that ends. Beyond that is Shiva.
So, Dada, I was just going through Ramcharitamanas. It is said that it is easy to worship the formless, unmanifest, and difficult to worship in the form, because I think the human ego keeps on clashing all the time. Also, Dada, please explain, why can't we chant Om Namah Shivaya? And why should we chant Namah Shivaya? And specifically, we get a lot of questions. Female can't chant the Panchakshari Mantra.
So, I'll give you my perspective on this. First of all, the restriction of chanting Om comes from the Vedic chronology. Vedic means not only the Vedas, but also the Puranas. That stream of Upasana Paddhati does not encourage chanting of Oms for certain Varnas and for women. The reason being, Om is the highest of all mantras, which is, Om's essence is very Vedantic. Vedantic means the end of the Vedas. So, Purva Mimamsa is the ritualistic part of the Vedas, and the Uttara Mimamsa where you go. Okay, finally into the Upanishads on that. So, it is believed that the Omkar has the energy of that full Brahman, which can take you into a state of sannyasa, where you lose interest in the world and everything. But you still have karmas to fulfill, you still have various things to do. That is why it is encouraged, it was encouraged specifically in the Middle Ages, that the Om should not be chanted for everybody, only certain individuals. The exception is if the Guru allows you, or if a precautious set of events allow an individual to do that, that could be the case for one or two individuals, that is the thing. But it is not always, mind you, this question comes in the Bhairava Japa also, so that's why let me address this, that in the Tantric condition, it is not necessary that the Om has to be removed, by the way. So we have mantras from the Rudrayamal where Om is already there in the mantra. Anybody, male, female, anybody chanting it will have to chant the Om. Okay. So the idea was generally Om is avoided unless someone has sannyasa, is aiming towards sannyasa. So Namah Shivaya is the mantra that is chanted. However, on a practical note, what I have seen is that today the world has so many other distractions. The mind is so dialed, the corruption level is so high that even if you chant Om, it's not like some harm is going to happen to you. Okay, neither are you going to become a sannyasi so easily. It's that difficult to reach the Vedantic state. However, if you want to respect the tradition that went on for the last few centuries, then you can avoid the Om and just chant Namah Shivaya. It will give you the same effect. Only thing is, because the Om is not there, that Om has a power of balancing a mantra, by the way. And again, this example I had given earlier also. For example, in the Navana mantra, a lot of people in North India use the Om. Whereas the Tantras say that when you are doing the Anushthan of Navana, you have to remove the Om. There's no Om in Navana. Only 9 aksharas will be there. Okay. Because what happens is, when you are aiming for mantra siddhi, the Om has the power to dilute the force of the mantra. So there is a Shakti, peak Shakti. Om is that static Brahman which is beyond everything. So it pulls down that Shakti. So it is something that is very related to the Nivritti Marga, which is internalization of the forces. That is where the Om comes in more powerfully. So that is why the idea was, if somebody is chanting Om Namah Shivaya, potentially, in theory, they can become way too internalized to be able to perform their duties, the dharmic duties and etc. in the world. So as well, only some people are allowed, others are not allowed. This was the idea. But as I said, the world has undergone various shifts. There are too many currents. I have seen many people chanting Om, and it causes not the slightest effect on their consciousness, because there are so many other distracting factors. So yeah, you can chant Namah Shivaya, that is good enough.
So, Dada, the females can chant.
They can chant.
They can chant.
I don't think there is any specific problem in females chanting Namah Shivaya.
Dada, leading up, what is the difference between Vedic mantras and Tantric mantras? Because aim changes to aim.
No, so it's not like that. So the whole aim is a matter of pronunciation. The mantra is one only. These are all vijas of Tantra. So in the Vedic Krama, the Puranic Krama, vija mantras and things like that are not there. There are the Vedic mantras are there, and they have their own tendencies and all that. The Vedic mantra shastra, I am not fully aware whether it's still how far it is existent. It may be, but the Tantric mantra shastra is very much existent, has influenced various paddhatis of sadhana across, even in the Puranas and all that for today. So Tantric mantras are, when those mantras are used with respect to the Tantric Upasana approach to the deity, where Vedic mantras are those which come from the Vedas or the Puranas. Vija mantras are all Tantric, all of them. So whether one pronounces this pronunciation like it is the Saraswati Vija, which comes aim or aim, it has the ending has to be like the sound of a bell. Like when you strike a bell, then dung, like that, it goes internalized. So ideally, you cannot articulate the end part. It has to go inside. Then it has to go inside, and you are not to even utter it out loud. Okay, as you go inside, it generates that force and that power.
Wow, beautiful understanding, Dada.
Yeah,
I'm very clear now with this. Dada, one more question about mantra. So when we chant the mantra, does it physically impact us?
Absolutely. It's I read a book long back. I don't remember the book. So you are going on the road and somebody, your friend or somebody comes and says 2 bad words to you. Immediately you get affected. It's normal for you. I mean, you, me, everybody, we get, okay. Somebody says some good things, we feel happy. Even if just a word that makes no sense, even if somebody makes a wild allegation against you, which you know is not true, still you will get affected, right? So if those simple words have a power to change and affect your consciousness, don't you think these specific mantric words, which have been devised by the rishis, they have a far greater power to change your consciousness? That is the whole point of the mantra shastra. By remembrance, constant utterance and remembrance, it is modifying the energies inside you, so that by resonance, this again is the same thing. When you are doing Shivalinga Upasana and when you are chanting the mantra, eventually at the end point, both of them becomes a dhyana. Meditation is the end of the mantra, but meditation with slight amount of anchoring, whether on the mantra, whether on the ritual or something, that becomes a very fulfilling exercise. That is, so in fact, while we are speaking on this, Namah Shivaya is one of those mantras which is so amazing that I personally feel, and in fact, Namah Shivaya is there in the Tantras also, by the way. When how to do the Tantric Upasana of Namah Shivaya, it is mentioned. If somebody does with Vidhi, somebody does some 10 lakhs ke aspas japa of this mantra, 10 lakhs, okay, not small, 1 to nahi, aspas japa. Either you will become a saint or you will definitely have some very powerful divine being or guru, somebody will change your consciousness. But you do it in the right manner, which is that you take a manasika sankalpa or something that I'll finish this in whatever time, 1 year, 2 year, whatever, etc. Okay, with the vidhi. It is not a mantra for materialistic things. It is a mantra to transform a human being from a flawed human being to the first thing that we're speaking, that Godhead inside will awaken. That is the power of Namah Shivaya.
Dada, can you please explain? Now we have done it many times. Can you please explain the science of Purasharan?
That's for say Om Namah Shivaya, somebody has to do. The simplest way is that you take a sankalpa that you will chant it 1 lakh times. After you chant it 1 lakh times, then 1/10 of it, which is about 10,000 times, you'll have to do Homa with it. Okay, Shiva Homa with this mantra. Okay, and then 1/10 of that you have to do Tarpana to Shiva. 1/10 of that will be, which is count of 10, we do Marjana of the mantra, Marjana or Abhishinchana we call it. And then at the end, 1/10 of that, which is about one individual, one person who is engaged in the Upasana of Shiva, or somebody connected to chanting of the Vedas, or somebody who is an Upasaka, you feed that individual Bhojanam. Okay. So this completes the progression of the mantra to all the 5 tattvas, and it activates the mantra, at least the initial stages.
So the Kilakam is removed.
Yes, and not just Kilakam. Kilakam is different thing. This makes the mantra active first. But in some sampradayas, for example, and it is true, in earlier sampradayas, they used to say, the first purushcharana of the mantra, the energy that is generated, because you are giving prana to the mantra by chanting it in the regulated manner, is for removal of doshas. Second purushcharana, the energy generated is taken by the Kula Devatas that are there, who allowed you to be born in this plane and do this dharmic activity. Third purushcharana, the energy is taken by the deities in the area where you survive. Fourth purushcharana, the mantra starts affecting your consciousness. If somebody is able to do, even for a Namah Shivaya, 5 purushcharana by the book, it is impossible. Ye ho hi nahi sakta ki you will not feel effects of it. It is impossible. It is as sanguine. It is a truth, and it will happen. It will happen. It is not possible that it will not happen. 5 purushcharana of this mantra, most likely you will not be able to do 5. Before that only, your mind, if it is not your destiny, nature will cause such unraveling of your karma. See, that is the thing. People come into sadhana with their idea that everything should be hunky-dory. Okay? Sab bahut acha hoga, jaise like a friends and party and things like that. True. Whatever I am doing. No. As you go higher, nature, if you want to go higher, you have to drop off things. The current consciousness, the current circumstances, the current environment, it cannot go along with you because it is at a lower plane. So once you go higher, this lower plane has to be dropped. And if you're not dropping, then nature is going to rip it apart from you. You cannot have everything. It's not a friends and family sab ek sath jaane ka hai. It is an individual's path. And you have to be ready. Your devotion to the deity should be such. There are so many stories of people who have done such sadhanas, and you'll pass through hardships because it is meant. That is the way the karmas are removed from the individual. So you can go higher. Only when you pass through pain, that is when you will reach enlightenment. There is no happy way out of it.
True that. 110%. Oh. And you have gone through it, Dada.
Everybody. It's not like there's no special person. Lord Rama went through, when we read the Valmiki Ramayana, he's the avatar of Vishnu. He's the Purushottama. When he's going in the forest, there is a moment of depression there. He is passing through that. You and I, to koi chance hi nahi hai. You will have to go through all that.
True.
There's no question.
So, Dada, even when we are chanting Namah Shivaya, and there's a lot of fear in people that we get, I don't have a guru. If I chant, Shiva is going to punish me. I'll have problems in life. What do you think, Dada?
My first question is that these are coming from a base of fear and superstition. Okay. Lord Shiva or a Rishi, even if he punishes you, that's a blessing. A being of that caliber, first of all, if you are that good, ki mera itna auqat hai, I have removed Shiva from his meditation and was come down there to punish you individually. If you think that highly of yourself, congratulations. His punishment is also blessing.
Yeah, 100% agree.
A deity is like that. इसीलिए तो भगवान बना के रखा है हम लोगों ने, क्योंकि भगवान ऐसा होता है, it's like a magnet. It passes by you, it will transform you. He punishes you, he will transform you. You fight with him, he will kill you and he will transform you. Even when he's destroying the Asuras, you see that Shiva Mahapurana has this beautiful section where he pins Andakasura in his Trishula. And Andaka, when he's pinned in the Trishula, he starts doing stuti of Shiva. Okay. And Shiva, out of his compassion, he changes him into one of his chief of the Ganas. Okay. That is liberation. An Asura who has done all sorts of adharmic activities is pulling that Asura up from the lowest of realms and taking him into the realm of Shiva Loka where his Ganas live, making him leader of the Ganas. That is devotion, if you ask me. That is terrific. वैसे वाला devotion चाहिए. कुछ भी हो जाए. Andaka is not saying, oh, मेरा इतना खराब हाल हो गया, ये हो गया. His devotion is like that. So, when a deity punishes you, that also is a blessing.
True. That is the reason, Dada, I tell everyone that experience is very important, not just bookish knowledge.
Yeah,
it is not going to take us anywhere. Dada, talking about the Tantric Shatkarma. Now, Hatha Yoga is Vastra, Dhan, Dhoti. In Tantric, we have that Shatkarma. Is it very important for a beginner to get into it?
No. For a beginner, do not enter into Shatkarma and all that. Your aim is to reach closer to the deity. Upasana means sit near the deity. How do you sit near the deity? You find the way, you find the right method. If you have a guru, then follow the guru. If you don't have a guru, then there are ways of sadhana which don't require the guru, that part of sadhana, but they're also effective. You can do that with devotion, with faith, and with patience. Three things: discipline, patience, and perseverance. If these three things are there in an individual, one day or other, nature will definitely take the individual to the goal, which is the deity. And once you reach, as I said, deity is like this, devata is like this, unke paas bhi aap pahunchte ho, it is going to transform you immediately. There is no scope that your limited identity will remain the same once you come close to the deity. Jo is Brahm mein sadhana karte hai, they are the ones. First of all, they will not reach, most likely. But if they reach, they will be there. That limited identity will be destroyed. Only then you can become unlimited. Only then you can resonate with the deity.
Definitely. Yes. Dada, on the basis of this, now when we chant a mantra and we don't have any knowledge and we just keep on chanting, the question comes that how will I move ahead? What next will happen? I know people want to, everything is shortcut, but how long it should be done, how it will develop. It's a very basic question that we get all the time.
And again, this is a question that I have answered various times. 3 years is the first nursery. Nursery entry is 3 years without break. Then 12 years. 12 years के नीचे अगर आपको कुछ मिल रहा है मंत्र से, it will not last. Let's be very clear. 12 years of consistent upasana of one deity in the right method. So that means that if you say that I have done Namah Shivaya japa a few lakhs or Om Bhairavaya japa a few lakhs, so what? Carry on. Time, three things I said: perseverance, consistency, and patience. Time Mahakal ke haath mein hai. Until Mahakal sanctions that now is the time for you to go up, you keep doing. And it is his judgment to decide when is the right time. You cannot force it. You cannot cry. You cannot beg. You cannot do anything. In fact, slowly what happens is, if you do for a few years, you don't do it mechanically. This question comes because you are doing it mechanically. आपको उसमें भाव नहीं है. आप लग रहा है कि अच्छा, I finished this much. That is good. अब क्या करना है? But suppose you actually fall in love with the process. You sit and think that when do I get to sit next? Aaj khatam ho gaya. I'm going to the office or doing my work and I'm thinking tomorrow when do I get to sit again? And day after when do I sit again? That becomes a love affair. Then you don't think of time. तुम्हें तब ये क्वेश्चन माइंड में नहीं आता है कि I have to do 3 months, I have to doing 4 months. No. You can go on doing it for eternity. Then you fall into love. You get into that state where you love the deity so much that even if the deity doesn't come, there is no anubhuti. Still you love the experience, that resonating effect that happens internally, and that itself carries you. There is no greater sadhana than that. There is no greater man than that who can do it.
Then we don't need anything. Just the connection is established.
Exactly. And like this, you suddenly realize one day that 3 years have passed, 5 have passed, 12 years have passed, life have passed, and you will see that irrespective of whether the deity, whether you have anubhuti or not, you have changed. Vohit, at the end of the day, it is the only thing. There is no point in having 1 million experiences and then again your consciousness going back to the old errors that you keep doing all the time. फिर तो transformation कहाँ हुआ है?
हाँ जी, such है. Dada, when you were asking, sharing about Mahakal, when we talk about Mahakal, so on the process of Shiv Sadhana, is it necessary to worship Mahakali and even Bhairav comes?
In a very formal way, maybe there is, but normally when you are doing normal Shiva Abhishekam, there is no need to worship anybody else. So Shiva, if you do the Abhishekam of Shiva, just the Namah Shivaya, again, you keep doing it more and more and more. So eventually it helps, it takes the person to a meditative state, and that calms down the doshas of the mind, the vikaras of the mind, and that itself is transformative. You don't need anything else. But remember, those who like Shiva Upasana are people who have that connection with that meditative state. As I say, Shiva is, there is the rational mind, and then there's the intuitive mind, and beyond that is also something in Shiva. There's no end to it. He's the subtlest of all beings. He's present everywhere. He's here, there, everywhere. Nothing can contain him. Nothing can define him. It's a joy in itself to do Shiva Linga Abhishekam. And especially if you have a Banalinga, then it's very good to do.
So please talk about Banalingam.
Banalingam is specifically those lingams that are found in the beds of the river Narmada. You all know that, right? Yeah. So if it is naturally found, Banalingam, then it's even good, better, which means that the individual goes to Narmada Ji and does a snan in Narmada and then finds a Banalingam. Yeah. That means that nature wants you to worship the Banalingam. Okay. And otherwise, there are places that sell Banalingams these days. Obviously, that is not ideal, but Anyway, the world is not ideal. You can't do much about it. You can't have a perfect thing everywhere. So you take that Banalingam. Banalingam's beauty is that it doesn't require a prana pratishtha. It is already contained. And on Banalingam, you can worship any deity, by the way. You can worship Devi, you can worship Ganpati, you can worship Skanda, you can worship Shiva. Of course, you can worship.
Yes.
You can worship Bhairava also. Only thing is that you have to do a sattvic worship of Bhairava on Banalingam. Okay. If you do the more rajasic or tamasic worship of Bhairava, then you cannot worship Shiva in that linga. There are separate lingas. Okay. There are marks on the Banalinga. I cannot explain here, but there are certain marks if you look. Some Banalingas will give you prosperity, some will give you good health, some are very good, which for relationship matters, various things. Some have the power of kind of, rejuvenating power, which means that suppose you're stuck in life, you don't know what to do next, okay, and you are completely frustrated, like your life has become like a desert. In that desert, to awaken that one single flower, there is also a power of Shiva, and that is Mrityunjaya, the life-giving force of Shiva, where jahan pe lag raha hai ki sab khatam ho gaya hai, he can again revive a thing from there. That is his absolute capacity. That is Mrityunjaya, and that is both the mantra as well as there's specific kinds of Shivalingas and all that. It's beautiful. I used to have at one point multiple Shivalingas which I had gathered, and I used to do abhishekam of that every day. And eventually, as intuitively I used to be guided, I used to give it to people. So giving Shivalinga which is charged is a responsibility, because you have to ensure that the individual can take care of the Shivalinga. You cannot neglect the Shivalinga. But it is also very beautiful karma. It takes the individual who receives it with Shraddha, it uplifts him or her, and it uplifts yourself also.
Beautiful, Dada. This is something very beautiful. Dada, I heard that while chanting Namah Shivaya, I don't know, someone messaged and they were having some debate with me and I didn't reply. But I think I should ask you that we should not chant Mrityunjaya mantra.
Why?
I don't know. And I said I chant for years.
No,
So
it's not like that.
I don't find any.
I find no logic to this. There are many people who chant Mrityunjaya mantra. Mrityunjaya mantra, there are variations of the Mrityunjaya mantra, by the way. There is the Vedika Mrityunjaya mantra, which comes from the Vedas, and then there are the additions on the beginning and end. And then there is the Tantric Mrityunjaya mantra. The Tantric Mrityunjaya mantra is very potent. Very, very, very potent. Okay, it is so potent that, in fact, in Kashi, if you go to the Mrityunjaya Shiva temple, you'll find that iconography of Shiva Mrityunjaya is slightly different. Amriteshwara Shiva is called. Amriteshwara. Somebody who is a lord of Amrita. Amrita is what? That which rejuvenates. जो dead है उसको भी वापस ला सकता है. That is Amrita. Okay, he's the lord of that nectar. Amriteshwara Shiva's mantras and things like that comes in the control, is the domain in which you have the Mrityunjaya mantra of the tantric format, and it comes to us from a text called the Netra Tantra, if I remember it correctly. In fact, there's a very interesting story. They say that some of the kingdoms in Cambodia area, one of the kings, he was given initiation into one form of Shiva which is similar to Amriteshwara, form of Bhairava. He's also both a Bhairava and a Shiva. Okay, Tumburu Bhairava, and whose mantras are similar to this. And by gaining siddhi of those, he was able to form a 500-600 year lineage of Hindu empire, which we have as the Angkor Wat and all that. Okay, it was so this the Mrityunjaya mantra, one Mrityunjaya mantra that comes from that lineage, that is very potent. But there are other rules in that. I will not go into discussing of the rules, because often Mrityunjaya is used as a prayoga in case of somebody who is in the deathbed and all that. So that is not easy. That requires certain understanding of the niyamas. For example, Shiva stays in different places in different days, on different tithis. This is called Shiva Vas. Okay, it comes from Tantras only. Matrika Veda Tantra and others mention this. So based on the tithi, you know that on one day Shiva is in the cremation ground, one day he's with Gauri, one day he's in the Sabha, one day he's on Vrishava, one day he's doing Kriya. Okay, so which day you approach Shiva? When he is in the cremation ground, that day Shiva is very prone to do some things. Okay, someday he is with Gauri, he wants privacy. That day you go and ask him, I want this, he's not going to give you. This knowledge is used in the application of the mantra, of how to do, when to do this mantra, and how to do the application. Application means prayoga of the mantra to get a certain result. But I do not encourage, or never in my own channel normally, Normally, I don't give prayogas because prayogas can be misused, or it requires a maturity of the mind. To teach a prayoga, that individual has to be close to me. I have to observe what he or she does from morning till evening, how much sadhana he does, and things like that. Those things are there. But my point is that I don't see any logic why one should not chant Mrityunjaya mantra. There are thousands of people who do it. It's fine.
Thank you for clarifying this, because females can't chant, children can't chant, you can't do this.
Mrityunjaya mantra is is a beautiful mantra, and Namah Shivaya is also one of the most beautiful mantras.
Yes, Dada. And I think just by chanting and doing, automatically things are taken care.
One logic could be, I was just wondering why it would be. So one logic is that Vedic mantras that come from the Vedas, it's generally discouraged. Women are discouraged from chanting Vedic mantras because there are some reasons for this. Not going into too elaboration of why and what, but most people, when they chant, so what do? They chant like 5 times, 10 times in front of, go to the temple and little bit, ek baar chant kar le do. Nothing is going to happen with that. You are not doing any hardcore, hardcore mantra purushchan of that and all that. Then it has some things, some Vedic mantras. The Vedas are very Purushatattva centric. Purushatattva means there is a certain change in the psychology that brings about. Okay. When women do that, it has a different effect on the mind and body. Okay. That's the whole reason why these certain rules were placed. But those, they are assuming that it is very hardcore sadhana you're doing. 99% people cannot do hardcore sadhana.
Yes. So these are for people normal.
Normal
just chanting.
People, if you go to a Shiva temple,
Yes.
you just chant Namah Shivaya. If you, most people, how many? 5, 10 times?
No.
Max to max 1 mala.
Yes.
Usme kuch nahi hona, aur achha hai. It's for peace of mind. No, Lord Shiva is not going to come down so easily.
Very true, Dada. Dada, understanding, of course, I want to ask about Bhairav Baba. And by your blessings, I am doing Batuk Bhairav Sadhana. What is the prime difference between Bhairav Baba and Batuk Bhairav?
Vatuka Bhairava is Shiva himself. He is Shiva. Literally, he is Shiva who has taken the form of a small child and come down because to aid the Upasakas of the Shakti Mata who are worshippers of Shakti, so that there are, when you go into the Shakti Upasana, there are many entities that can come and try to take away your energy. Not just human beings. So these entities, they will try to disrupt your sadhana by influencing the minds of people around you or this or that, etc. It is a natural course. So we read stories now, like somebody is doing tapasya and then Indra sends some distraction and things like that. So these things happen in sadhana, literally. Okay. Many problems can come. Even you may be sitting quietly and doing intense, little bit of mantra japa is okay. I'm saying very intense. So you are aiming that, okay, I want to become a siddha or something like that. Okay. So there are many this type of entities that will come. Vatuka is the one deity. Shiva, out of his kindness, he takes the form of a small child. Was all the powers of the 64 Bhairavas inside him. He says that if you worship, instead of worshipping all this, calming down all these entities, you worship Vatuka, I will calm all these things down. Tumhara road pura clear rahega. Vatuk Bhairava, there is nothing that he cannot do. His mantra is a Ramvan of this age. Anything and everything he can get done. But there is only one catch. He is a child. So you have to have emotional connection with him. You cannot mechanically only do. You have to love Vatuka like a child. If you love him, if he is happy, he can change your destiny. And I'd say this, and I've said this, deities who are adults, like fully grown, or when we imagine the iconography as a fully grown man or a woman, they will give you what is there in your destiny, and how much ever sadhana you do, proportionately some results will give you. Vatuka is a child. If he loves you, pura Brahman ghuma dega tumhare liye. Okay. At the same time, he's a child. So if you ask something from Vatuka and he gives you, and next day you forget him, then he will bring hell to you.
Yeah. I'm enjoying the other sadhana.
Vatuka is I would say is one of the best deities of this era. I'm not saying Kal Bhairava. Kal Bhairava is tough. Okay, it's for the certain makeup is required. I love Baba Kal Bhairav very much. But Vatuk Bhairav, I've done a lot of sadhana Vatuk Bhairav myself. And in the most complex and difficult of situations, abhi aajkal to nahi karta hu. Yeah, I remember once somebody very close to me, and this is before all these things, before I became known and others to our people. Somebody close to me was suffering from some very complicated health issue. Doctors were like, admit karna hai, or don't even know what's going to happen. It's kind of serious matter. And I had no clue. I remember at night I sat to do Vatuka. certain mantras and prayogas of Vatuka. And it's 3 hours I did japa with certain bhogs and certain offerings and things. And I told him that I want this fixed. I don't care. You please help me. Next day morning, there is this miraculous thing, and I woke up a little late at 10:30 because I was awake all night doing this, late night till. And suddenly this doctors and all, they say that this miraculous thing, that particular problem for which they had identified, it just vanished. And the doctor can't believe it. So he goes, takes the person to another hospital, another instrument. Ki ye kaise ho gaya? Ye kaise ho gaya? And I remember that is the first time. And I'm like, how is this possible? And then I remember, oh my God, it is him who had died. And the person never ever had that problem again in life. It was it was his blessing that saved that person that day. And I've seen he can do these things, but you have to remember that you never take him for granted. He's a child. You take a child for granted. If you have interacted with a small child, you'll know that. Okay.
Yeah. It's through your Leela I'm understanding. He listens very fast, Dada.
He's very fast.
He's
the swiftest of all forms today existent in the Hindu consciousness. When Vatuka is the fastest. In fact, Vatuka is almost in some older manuscripts. It is believed that Vatuka was like Skandha. Okay.
Oh, very
Till 9th century, there are some texts or manuscripts somebody had sent me in Nepal area where Vatuka Bhairava was considered equivalent of Skandha. Skandha in the Vedic Sampradaya Paddhati is same as Vatuka in the Tantric Paddhati, like a child of Shiva or Shiva himself. In fact, Vatuka Bhairava, if you do a formal Upasana of Vatuka, the Nyasa of Vatuka is the Panchabrahma mantras of Shiva. There are 5 mantras of Shiva, core mantras. Those have to be used in Nyasa of Vatuka Bhairava, which means before you do, what is Nyasa? You are placing the deity. In Sharir. So which deity are you placing? You are placing Shiva. Because Vatuka is Shiva. His heart is Shiva only. He is Shiva. Out of his kindness has come down in the form of a child. Why? So that if he's in a fully adult form, then adult form puja is little difficult. It requires a lot of discipline. We are entering deeper into Kali Yuga. Discipline, concentration, ये सब चला जाएगा. Abhi, at least if you have shuddhata of feelings, of emotions, a little bit of mantra and a little bit of purity and bhava, there is at least somebody who will respond to you. ठीक है? That is where Vatuka comes in. There is nothing he cannot do. If he is happy, there is nothing. In fact, last year, we were able to, it's Vatuka's blessing that me and my group of people whom I guide, we were able to contribute and offer a mukuta and a trishula to Baba in Kashi. Vatuka Bhairava. It's beautiful.
And even Kali takes time at times, I think. But Vatuka's Dada, that experience and that knowledge is very...
And by the way, Vatuka, there is another blessing on a practical side. If Vatuka blesses you, your worship of Mahavidyas become easy. He has the key to the Mahavidyas. He knows he's a Bhairava Sarupa. Bhairava Sarupa means he can go into the cremation ground also, if needed. He will be in the house. If needed, he can take the form of a cremation ground deity also. Otherwise, he will take a very Somya house form of deity also. No issues with that. Vatuka Bhairava. He has every single power in his consciousness that you can imagine, that you cannot imagine also. It's there. Absolutely, he is the Brahman in the form of a small child who has come. And he can teach you, nobody can teach you Kali Upasana, nobody can teach you how to reach Tripur Sundari, nobody can teach you Taravasa better than Vatuka Bhairava.
But Dada, it's a fact. My personal understanding is in Kali Sadhana, when Batuk Bhairava has come, things have changed. Big, something, you know it the best, something has changed and I'm loving it. It is just opening up.
Yes.
Very smoothly.
In order to explain this also, there is a colloquial saying that when Mahakali was very furious and nobody could stop her, because once she's like this, she's that, that car, wo jate jate 5th gear pahunch gaya to fir koi rok nahi payega unko. She's unstoppable force of the universe, can destroy anything and everything. Only then Shiva takes the form of a child, and then there is that motherliness that comes out of her and she stops the destruction. This moral of the story, what we are talking about is that Vatuka teaches you that with the bhava, when you connect to Kali, that you cannot. Kali is beyond rituals. Let me be very clear. All the mantras of Mahakali are fantastic. After a point, all you have to do is put your head down in Sharanagati. Bas, because nobody can control her. Nobody can control her. Nobody. It is impossible. But if you are like a child to her, and if you become her son, and that is not so easy. It is one thing to say that I am the son of Kali, but it is another thing to become the son of Kali. Isme bahut time lagta hai. She will test you. I have told this once, she likes people who have that tenacity within you. कि आप गिरोगे फिर से उठ के you will start. You are not over until you give up, and you cannot give up. That thing, that Kshatriya Bhava, that strength inside the soul, ki I don't care. Her method of teaching is a slap, by the way. Sri Aurobindo tried very beautifully that if you allow Maa Kali to intervene in your life fully, this progress you'd make in 30 years, she can give you in 3 months. But she is going to rip you apart. That's her style of doing. And only the bravest are capable of it, because you say that I don't care. I'm not here because I want good results. I am not here because I want another job. I'm not here because मेरे को और थोड़ा स्टॉक मार्केट में पैसा चाहिए, मुझे मेरा शादी हो जाए, मेरा बच्चा हो जाए, ये सब नहीं. I want you, and I don't care how much you hit me. I love you so much that even if you hit me, I'll still get up and again worship you. Then finally one day she'll say, okay, now I'm going to lift you up, and then zoop, rocket.
Dada, she end tuck will squeeze out every ounce that is left.
Yeah, she's very beautiful.
No, Dada, torture matlab sadhak ke liye, but she'll test till you. And but when she'll hold, Dada, it is.
Nobody protects like Kali.
It is the safest and the most beautiful like feeling, Dada.
And Vatuka teaches you how to. Or this thing, by the way, since we were talking of prayogas, comes in prayogas also.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, when certain kinds of details I'll not go into. Certain prayogas of Kali and Tara and all that, when they are clubbed with Vatuka mantras, they work with double, triple speed.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah. There are certain sampradayas, especially, I think it comes from the northern parts of Bihar, but it's popular across in North India, where the Durga Saptasati Parayana is done with Samputikaran of the Otuk Bhairava mantra. But people should not try that just by listening to this conversation. It requires certain depth and advice from capable individual, but it works like 3-4 times speed.
Oh, this is very intense.
The Vatuka Mula mantra, which has that term Apad Uddharaka, that is the key to it. That is the main thing. All types of problems he is going to take care of, if you are surrendered to him properly.
Oh, yeah, Dada, after meeting in Kashi, no, Batuk Bhairav just come. And I'm loving it, Dada. This
is very beautiful.
Very, and it's an experience that it can't be scheduled. Just those who are doing
very
it, they
beautiful.
Know it.
Yes.
Dada, now when we are chanting about mantras, Yantra plays a very important role. So as we advance in mantra, does a yantra come into life? Like when you're walking on the path?
No, so yantras are important. Yantras are like a 3D model of the mantra. Okay, a 3D physical presence of the mantra comes in the yantra, and then you can do seva of the yantra. It increases your sadhana. Yantra has to be made properly in specific tithis, specific ways, and certain pujas have to be done on the yantra to activate the yantra. And then once you do it, and once you do seva of the yantra, it's as good as a properly pran pratishtita yantra is as good as having the small presence of the deity with you.
And Dada, is it true that once we start, we can't stop?
For what?
For the worship of yantras?
No, it's not like that. Depends on the yantra.
Yeah.
Yantras are various types. There are small yantras that are available these days, I've seen, with little bit of pran pratisthapana. They can work for 2-3 years, aram se. Then you need to recharge those yantras. And then there are yantras which can be made with specific materials, maybe made of gold or things. Sometimes a yantra can be made in precious stones also. For example, Kali yantra made on Neelam is very powerful. But it will either destroy you fully or it will take you to the top fully. No in-between thing. So similarly, there are various things. So it depends on how the yantra is being made. There are some yantras which are so potent and powerfully made. Those are passed down generation after generation. But those are rare yantras. Only somebody capable of doing seva to a yantra like that should have. Smaller yantras, once, if somebody is not able to take care of the yantra, you do a small puja, panchopachar puja of the deity of the yantra, and tell the deity that I am not able to take care henceforth. You do visarjan of the yantra in Ganges.
I'm asking because Dada, we get a lot of questions about yantra. Yeah. So I'm glad it is getting cleared.
Yes. But remember, just buying from the market is not good enough. It has to have the prana and the yantra.
Because nowadays everyone is just putting us messages, we do yantra, this will happen, God will punish. We just want to remove the fear, Dada.
Yeah, remove fear. And when these questions come to me, my first thing is that, so wherever you got the yantra from, that is the individual you should be asking ki, क्या करना है
हाँ.
यंत्र का. If I give a yantra to somebody, I had given a Ganpati yantra to somebody, and I eventually he did very well with the yantra. And how to recharge the yantra, what to do, how to keep it. I'll tell you all that. If I ever give a yantra, if it
Yes.
comes intuitively, I don't
Yes.
give all the time
Yes.
or something like that. My idea is that keep it simple.
हाँ.
Stick to the mantra, because at the end of the day, you have to change inside.
हाँ.
That inner change, na yantra karega, na kuch karega. वो you have to work hard and hard and hard eventually.
यही जरूरी है जानना.
सबसे important वो है.
हाँ, यही है, because there is so much fear.
It is not compulsory to have a yantra, but it's wonderful to have if you can do seva. Yantra से भी complicated है विग्रह by the way.
हाँ, वो हाँ. That is so
Yeah.
very
Seva
difficult.
of the vigraha is more.
Very, very difficult. Dada, when we talk about mudras, now Hatha Yogic mudras are very different taking bandhas. But in Tantra, mudras are used to evoke the deity. So how does it work, Dada?
Same way, it's not a one-day process. First you learn what is the mudra for the deity. By keeping repeating it constantly, eventually your mind, your mudra of the hands and the mantra becomes synchronized together in such a way that the moment you do the mudra, you will feel the presence of the deity. But that is not a one-day thing. It's at the later stage.
And
initially,
in higher sadhana, that happens, Dada.
Ideally, it should happen. I'm not saying it happen with everybody. Because most people do it without consciousness. Mechanically, करने से नहीं होगा. But at the same time, there has to be consistency, there has to be repetition, patience. Along with it, you have to add the bhava, the right feeling into it. That every time I'm doing the yoni mudra, you have to imagine the form of the mother. Every time you do the yoni mudra like this, somebody does the yoni mudra for 3 years, 5 years, and you imagine the form of the mother. Next time when you do the yoni mudra, even unconsciously also her presence will be felt. Like that.
So the Dashama Vidyas, all they have the yantras, they have their mantras, and they have the mudras also.
Mudras, yes, but mudras for the Devi, most of the mudras are, so there are certain, like the Yoni mudra is for Devi, okay. Ganpati has his own set of mudras, Shiva has his own set of mudras, etc. So yeah, each of them have their own mudras. For the Mahavidyas, the yantras and the mantras will change. Mudras are Devi mudras, generic Devi mudras. Yeah.
So Dada, everyone talks about Shaiva Tantra, Shakta Tantra. No one talks about Vishnu Tantra, Surya Tantra.
Because I think it's Surya Tantra, I don't even know if it exists today somewhere in any kind of form, apart from the Surya Upasana that, So what has happened is the 5 deity Upasana of the Smartas have absorbed whatever stream current of Surya Upasana was there already. So whenever we do a basic puja of Devi, any Tantra puja, at least in the Kalikula Sampradayas, we start with a Panchadevata puja. And there Vishnu has to be worshipped, Shiva has to be worshipped, Ganpati has to be worshipped, Durga has to be worshipped, Surya, Martanda, Bhairava with Shakti has to be worshipped, and you offer Argha and all that to them. And then you go to the main deity. In fact, in Durga Puja in Bengal, we see all the deities on the stage, right? Ye kyun aata hai? Because the Panchadevatas are there. Ganpati is there, Lakshmi is there, Skandha is there, all this is there. So all the deities are collectively taken together. So I don't know if there is any dedicated school of Surya Upasana today left. If there is, then I would like to know more about them.
Yeah, even I am very keen.
I have no idea. And so far as Vishnu Tantra is concerned, so there are sampradayas which dedicatedly worship Vishnu that we know of already, especially in the south. See, northern Vishnu Upasana, a large part of it is very bhakti oriented and kathavachak oriented, and the bhava oriented singing songs and all that. South, that is there also, but there is also technical upasana of Vishnu that happens. Okay, in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradayas and all that, they're very confined in their own systems, but they have this rule that everything they do, they only worship Vishnu forms. Even Ganpati also not there. Okay, everything is Vishnu form. In principle, I don't find it wrong. But the thing is that, so for example, for most of the issues, material life or any kind of troubles, they'll either worship Sudarshana or Hanuman or Narasimha. These are the main deities which will cover all the materialistic. And for other things, it is Sriman Narayan or Lakshmi and these. So that pantheon. In theory, it is fine. In practice, some problems means unless your commitment to the deity is that strong. So sometimes you see, when you read the Parashara Hora Shastra, the book of Jyotisha, Rishi Parashara, whose connection is to the Vishnu Purana, by the way, of all texts. Parashara mentions different grahas. To pacify these grahas, different deities have to be worshipped. So he's saying that when Rahu is to be pacified, Durga is to be worshipped. When Mars is to be pacified, Skanda has to be worshipped. Or Hanumanji, which comes in later, but Skanda specifically mentions. So like this. So what he is doing is that what is the easiest route to get out of a Graha dosha? Okay. Now suppose you decide that I'll only worship Vishnu forms. So what is going to happen? Say you have to pacify Rahu. You can worship Narasimha, you can worship Hanuman, you can worship Sudarshan. But that is a little bit more complicated route than had you worshipped directly Durga. So Rishi Parashar gives, that is why he says that the samasti of all, he gives all these deities. He doesn't confine himself to one deity. He says the grahas are connecting to different deities in the quickest format. And this is, by the way, taking from here, going into deeper, one of the best and the most esoteric parts of Jyotisha, which is not so easy, is to find out which is the right form of deity to get oneself out of a particular, say there's a specific situation. And few years ago when I used to do cases where issue people with different issues and all that, these days I don't do because it's overwhelming number that comes. Okay. But once in a while. So that is why Jyotisha is very important. Apart from the science, apart from the intuitive understanding of the situation, what to do, I can look at the grahas and understand that what is the right form of the deity, what is the mantra that can help, or if at all this can be solved or not. Jyotisha is the eye of the Vedas. It is the eye of knowledge. It is the most important aspect that shows you what is the path going ahead, which is the form of deity. So, for example, Mars connects to multiple deities. Mars connects to Chandi. Mars connects to Narasimha. Mars connects to to Skanda, to Hanumanji, all these deities. Like where exactly is Mars placed? Who are the other grahas aspecting it? Where exactly? That will tell you of these which is the form that will give you the quickest result.
And if done properly, it can
properly. So basically the idea is your Ishtadevata is your Ishtadevata. But your Ishtadevata also allows for various materialistic issues. You can take other deities also. There is no problem in that. That is one approach, which is the approach we follow across mostly India, across different sampradayas and all that. I personally follow that. I have my own set of core deities. There is not going to be a single day in my life where there's no day I don't worship Bhairava, there's no day I don't worship Maa Kamakhya or Maa Tara, or few other deities are there, etc. But if there is a specific situation that demands the upasana of a specific deity, I'll do that. I have no issues with that. This Sri Vaishnava conception is that for everything only Vishnu.
Yes. Yeah, agree.
So that's a different outlook. It's not wrong, but sometimes it can be a little more complicated, I feel.
Dada, something very simple for Hanuman.
Hanuman Chalisa.
Except Hanuman Chalisa.
Except Hanuman Chalisa, again, there are mantras of Hanuman, they work very well. There are a lot of Sabar mantras of Hanuman. They work like crazy.
Yes.
But neither can those be told out so easily without the vidhi and all that. So, Hanuman Sabar mantras are magical.
They work very fast.
Oh my God,
very
they're
fast.
magical. They will work, they will protect, they will reverse an attack, they will do 100 things together. See, in the Sabar mantra krama, 3 deities are most important. Bhairava, Hanuman and Maa Durga. ये तीनों में से एक का blessing आपको मिल गया ना, बस बाकी आपका रोड खुल जाएगा.
रॉकेट जैसे है हनुमान जी के तो रॉकेट जैसे है.
Either हनुमान जी और भैरवा और माँ दुर्गा, ये तीन. हनुमान जी मंत्र से पढ़ा हुआ है सावर में. And not the savar, in the main mantra krama also, there are Veera Hanuman mantras and all that. Those though you should not touch without a solid guru. Because Hanuman in his Veera form, jaan nikal jayega. There is just the description in one of the tantric texts, okay, where Hanuman comes into battle and is described, his eyes are like the fire at the ends of time, large red ball, furious, okay, and like this. And his description, there are asuras, rakshasas, and he's looking at Ravana and he's telling that wait, don't run. ऐसे करके, ठीक है, भागने का नहीं है, ठीक है, वहां पे. And Ravana and everybody is doing, बस गिर गया है. With that form, who will fight? ठीक है. And the Upasaka has to imagine that, visualize that, and chant the mantra for, I don't remember the exact vidhi right now. It's written down somewhere, for a certain number of days, staying completely alone, mind you. During that time, celibacy is the mandatory restriction on food, and you cannot speak to anybody, you cannot meet anybody. And then Hanumanji will take a furious form. It mentions very clearly, he will come in a furious form. You cannot get up and run. Run to छोड़ दो वहाँ पे हार्ट अटैक हो गया तो अलग बात. And if that's the way he tests you, that is his Maya. And then he can give you a blessing, then you become whatever, कोई end नहीं है. But these sadhanas are not to be tried unless you have a solid guru.
Simple sadhana, Dada.
Hanuman Chalisa.
Hanuman Chalisa is the key
Best.
to everything.
Bus. Because other Hanuman sadhanas that I know of cannot be unless I know the person very well. See, there's only a small. I don't have disciples.
Yeah.
Let me be very clear. There are thousands of people who do the sadhanas that I've given. It's the blessings of Bhairava, blessings of Maa Kamakhya, that 90% of the times it has benefited those people. It's very good, very happy, because I give those sadhanas which do not require a great amount of supervision. If your mind, body, intellect and little common sense is there and you have Shraddha and you keep doing it, nature will take care of it. As I have. Only a small group are there who are karmically connected to me. To them, I give specific sadhanas. Only there I can give these sadhanas, because then I can monitor what they're doing. Unless I monitor, then it's risky.
No, it is true, Dada. Even when you gave us some sadhana, you made it very clear. You have to do.
It
It is your journey. You will come closer to deity. And you said one thing very clearly. Stick to it till the end.
Yes.
Don't hop, skip, jump. Stick to it. And it's ingrained in the system.
Once you take that attitude that I will go through it, so some days will be good, some days usme koi farak nahi padta. You have to look at it that way, that your karmas are burning off. Your karmas are burning off. Your karmas are burning off. Some days bad karmas will burn off, some days good karmas. Ek din acha hoga, ek din bura hoga. There has not been a single individual in the history of sadhana who has had all good days. It is impossible. And that too, I am telling even the simplest of deities, if you worship. It is the way it is. Anybody who enters into the system with a sense of fear, I will do the mantra and only good things will come, you are not fit for the path.
Dada, when we talk about Shiv and when we talk about Mahakali and especially about Bhairav Baba, there is a slight change in everything, in the approach. But at the end, Dada, only worshipping one is more than enough, no?
At the end, there will be one.
Only one, no? So even if I'm worshipping, I used to worship Kal Bhairav a lot, but now Batuk Bhairav is everything. So in the end, even if I'm worshipping multiple, because these are the questions that people ask, and coming from you and discussing is very important. At the end, holding to one, all will fall into place.
Yes, that's perfectly. So you can worship just one deity. Even if you worship multiple deities, there's not a big problem. Okay. So, for example, in Tantra, if goes formally into Tantra sadhana, so there are kramas of Diksha. So, in many of the sampradayas, as the Diksha krama increases, goes higher, your worship, the number of deities you worship will also increase, by the way. Ye nahi hai ki ek hi deity hai.
True.
In the Krama Diksha and all that, all the Mahavidyas and all that come in. Okay, so you have to do their mantras. But how do you integrate that? Integration of this comes in at the end of the sadhana, especially if a sadhak is of a higher level, you're doing multiple sadhanas. Suppose as I said, I have my set of deities who are core deities, Ishta Devata. I will worship them rain, summer, winter, autumn, good days, bad days, doesn't matter. If I am happy, I'll worship them. If I'm sad, I'll worship them. If I'm tired, I'll worship them. If I'm energetic, I'll worship them. They are like eating food. Their connection to me is like that. It never ever is going to stop. खराब समय भी उनको पूजना है, अच्छा समय भी उनको पूजना है. It is irrespective of the outside circumstances. But in between, suppose there is a certain transit going on, certain particular result I want, something I want, I can worship some other deity for some period of time. Some health issue happened, some mantras of Aghora Shiva had to be done for some period of time. So like this can be done. There is no harm in that. Neither is your deity going to get very angry on you ki tum ye kyun kar rahe ho. But what integration of the consciousness has to be there eventually is that you end with for example, start with the Ishtadevata. Say you have Hanuman Ji as a Ishtadevata. Okay. And after that you do Shiva mantra, some Vishnu mantra, some Devi mantra. Jo bhi aapko achha lage, aap kiya aapne. And before you're getting up, you again worship Hanuman once more. And say that there is a particular sloka, we say, not fully, but the deities Parivara, Anga, Ayudha, sab ek saath milake, you say that you believe that one deity whom you are worshipping is the universal consciousness, has become all the deities.
This knowledge is very important, Dada, because otherwise a lot of fear comes of switching.
First of all, fear should be completely removed from sadhana.
Yes, Dada. This is
fear is the worst thing.
And
fear का तो कोई जगह ही नहीं है.
And Dada, one more thing, I get many fear, the deity will get angry, the deity will punish me, and
what kind of a god is it that will get angry?
I never say deity will punish you, your mind will punish you.
Your mind will punish you
1,000 times.
Yeah, your mind will punish you if you are scared. अगर आपको ये भ्रम है, it's a mental superstition that deity is going to get angry, and तो वैसे deity worship ही मत कीजिए.
हाँ जी.
So the idea has to be that whatever your approach to the deity, it is going to uplift you always. Is never going to cause you whatever experiences they give you is only for your betterment. So ये तो वो हो गया स्कूल में जाके the teacher wants you good. Sometimes the teacher will give you good marks. Sometimes the teacher will scold you also, depending on the nature of the deity. And in fact, the Srimad Bhagavatam of all texts, in the 10th canto, it mentions that when Krishna wants to take somebody higher,
Yes.
he removes everything from their life.
True.
इससे बड़ा disaster तो कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता.
True.
So then you should not worship
And
Krishna.
he
This is
being the
scary.
sweetest of all of them.
That principle is there for all deities, by the
Yes.
way.
True.
Once they want to take you higher, they're going to rip you apart. You cannot go in, you cannot barge into those realms with your ignorant consciousness. They will clear you, cleanse you, एकदम से पूरा साफ करके फिर लेके जाएगा अंदर ऊपर में, the highest stages.
Dada, can you please share with us about your foundation and what is the plan ahead and how are the blessings flowing?
So I have a registered foundation called the Kamakhya Bhairav Upasana Foundation. The main purpose of the foundation is various dharmic activities. We get a lot of pujas and sevas done to different deities across India. Almost close to 15-20 different temples. We do sevas every month. Plus, we do go sevas with goshalas. Then we are connected to certain organizations that take care of dogs. So we provide medicines and food and any kind of help possible. So we do Annadanams along with the other activities. Plus, through this trust only, we did the the Kamakhya protection, the PIL that we had filed. Additionally, right now, my main focus is for the last few months is to create certain Bhairava temples across India. So I've been going to South, going to Girnar area and Tarapet and looking for lands and things like that. And because I believe that if a few Bhairava temples are created across India over time, it's obviously not a one-day project. It will be immensely beneficial both to Dharma and to the country. And because we are going to pass through some tough times, and then the Shakti and the power and the blessings of Bhagavan Bhairava as a protector is very important for us.
So, Dada, this is what Bharat needs now. And how can we contribute? And what is the channel that we can support? Because we need it.
Yes. So basically, right now, so me and my team, I've been traveling constantly for the last few months, going to different places and lands and seeing how the lands are, right, or which is a suitable place for it. We are also in talk with certain architects to develop a model of what I have in mind, so that it's easier for people to relate to. Obviously, we will need a lot of monetary help for this kind of a project. It's a huge project. So there is already in my website, in the Kamakhya Upasaka Foundation website, there is a donation link. If anybody wants to contribute, it's most welcome. But more or less this year, we are absolutely certain that the first temple is going to start off. That I am very determined as a sankalpa. And for that, my whole team is also doing certain special pujas, asking the deities to help us. I had gone to Kumbh with one of the prayers there to Ma Ganga, the Sangam, that this project, this thing starts off because this is needed for the land. See, remember, your dharma is your dharma. You as a Hindu have to protect it. Your politicians will not protect it. Your parties are, nobody's going to protect it.
True.
If you outsource that thing, the protection of a dharma to somebody else, at the end of the day, everybody sab haath jhad lega, you will be the one who will suffer. You have to take responsibility. You have to come forth and you have to say, no, I want this. Only then there is a change that is going to happen. And once these temples come up properly, I believe that it is going to cause a massive change in this land, and they will be the torch bearers of dharma for centuries to come. It is Bhairava's will, his blessing, that he wants this executed. But of course, there are people who have offered lands and all that also, very kind enough. So, but then, me or somebody from my team, they go and check those places if it's suitable. Then finding architects, finding people help in construction and a lot of stuff. But any help is welcome because it doesn't belong to one individual, it belongs to everybody. And each of these temples will have 8 Bhairava forms, along with a central form of Bhairava, along with a central form of Devi, along with a Skandha. 11 deities will be there and pujas will happen. It will create a strong energy of, of protection.
So it's like a border.
Yes, it's like a strong action protecting. It will inspire a lot of people more into sadhana. It is a thing that is needed. And Skandha Upasana is going to increase massively in coming times. Skanda is a deity who's as I was mentioning in one of the old texts, he's considered as a form of Batuk Bhairava. He's the son of Shiva, and he's very intense. He possesses the soul.
And even his mantra, Dada gives
tremendous.
bulletproof.
He's the leader of the armies.
Yes.
Okay, he's the leader of the armies. So we will pass through some, but his upasana is going to increase. There's no doubt about it. Not just in Tamil Nadu, it's going to spread like it used to be in olden times. Before 1000 years ago, Skanda Upasana was there from Afghanistan to Bengal.
Everywhere. Yes.
Yeah, Skanda Upasana was so important. Kartikeya Upasana was so important. It is going to come back again. That much I'm sure of. And I keep getting a lot of requests from people for making a video on simple Skanda Upasana. I will, at this moment though, we on Shashti Tithis, all of us do simple Skanda Upasana of Ashtottara, Nama, and lighting a diya. And then we are connected to various of the Skanda temples also. We do sevas there every month, among the other temples that we do. Okay. So his energy is very important for India, along with Bhairava and Devi.
So, time of Bhairav Baba, Kalima.
The intense deities.
Intense. All
Ugra Swarupas are needed. When the corruption is very intense, then you need those intense deities. That is why the rishis, why did the rishis give those deities their upasana paddhatis? They could have just said, no, we will keep only to the simple ones. Simple names, they are beautiful. It's like the full moon and the amavasya. You need both in your life. Sometimes you need the amavasya, sometimes you need the full moon.
So the time is coming where things will change, and in a rapid way it will change.
Next few years are going to be personally tough for everybody. Let's put it this way. You worship the fierce deities, they will give you the strength to pass through that. You will not fully change the times, but you will survive the times.
But only sadhana and the deity can protect us. No one else.
No one else. Who will protect you?
So we have to start sadhana.
Yes, we have to start sadhana. In whatever condition, whatever way, it's going to be very beneficial.
Nada, for a last question, for a person who's starting sadhana tomorrow, one advice. A new beginner who's inspired and I will start sadhana. One baby step, what you recommend?
Any deity upasana, what you do, stick to it. Stick to it and learn to enjoy the process. Don't connect it to various things. It can happen. Like in a lot of people I've guided in sadhana. In some days, some good material benefits can come, something. But don't keep your mind like that, because when day comes, night will also come. Make no mistake about it. It has happened to everybody in history, the latest upasakas. It will happen to you also. Today, some good things happen. Tomorrow, your own negative grahas will come into play, and then negative things will happen, and you'll wonder, कि मेरा साधना के लिए इसके साथ कोई संबंध नहीं है. The deities are there to transform you. Your life goes on, whatever it is goes on. You start the sadhana, stick to it. Stick to it with reverence. Do it with a little bhava. Try and ask the deities to be able to transform you. Pray to them to help you transform yourself, to get out of your negatives, your own darknesses, so that you transform and you reach the light. And may you have a fantastic. This is the time of the Shiva Upasana that is coming, which we started. So Shivaratri is the time for all new beginnings. Shiva is the Lord of beginnings in a way. Shivaratri is the time any sadhana you do, anything you do, it's the Maharatri. It's a great night. It's a night of bliss. It's a night of blessings. It's a night of power. It's a night of individual transformation.
Please shower your blessings, Dada, on all of us. And thank you so much, Dada.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhavesh.
Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.